On August 22, 2025, a Bangkok criminal court acquitted former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra of lese-majesté and computer crime charges. Prosecutors claimed that his 2015 interview with South Korean media defamed King Bhumibol. The judges disagreed. They examined the grammar of Thaksin's comments and concluded that he did not refer to the monarchy. The prosecution's witnesses were deemed biased and even fabricated words. The court thus dismissed the case, citing insufficient evidence. This verdict was celebrated by Thaksin supporters outside the courthouse, but it also highlighted the sensitivity of royal defamation charges. Thaksin, still one of Thailand's most influential politicians despite exile and jail for corruption, publicly pledged loyalty to the king and insisted the legal process was independent. However, the case reminds us that in Thailand, speaking about the monarchy can have huge consequences. The term lese-majesté comes from Latin for injured majesty. The idea dates back to the late Roman Empire when emperors declared themselves divine and equated insults against them with offenses against the gods. In medieval Europe, absolute monarchs portrayed themselves as divinely appointed. Disrespecting their persons or even altering coins bearing their image was considered treason. As absolute monarchies faded, so did the offense, but vestiges remained. Japan criminalized insults to the imperial family in 1877. The law was abolished during the US occupation in 1947 after the Showa emperor renounced divinity. Norway once allowed up to 5 years in prison for insulting the king or regent, but the crime was largely symbolic and was removed from the penal code by 2015. In Scotland, the common law offense of leasing making, criticizing the monarch, was abolished in 2010. The last prosecution had been in 1715. The Netherlands repealed its lèse-majesté provision on the 1st of January 2020. Insulting the monarch is now punished like insulting any public official. Germany repealed its law criminalizing insults to foreign heads of state in 2018. And Spain is under pressure after the European Court of Human Rights ruled against the conviction for burning portraits of the king. Yet, new laws occasionally appear. Cambodia adopted a lèse-majesté statute in 2018, punishing insults against the monarchy with 1 to 5 years in prison. And Belarus has used similar provisions to jail people for mocking President Alexander Lukashenko. Worldwide, such laws are increasingly seen as tools for authoritarian control rather than necessary protection. Thailand's lèse-majesté provision, Section 112 of the Criminal Code, is among the strictest. It punishes anyone who defames, insults, or threatens the king, queen, heir apparent, or regent with 3 to 15 years imprisonment per offense. The law dates back to 1908 and has remained virtually unchanged. The penalty was increased in 1976 after bloody political unrest. Unlike in Europe, any citizen can file a complaint, and police must investigate. Cases rarely get bail, trials often occur behind closed doors, and sentences accumulate for multiple counts. Since the military coup in 2014, enforcement has surged. Activists and human rights groups cite more than 280 prosecutions since 2020. Offenses have included wearing black on the king's birthday, posting sarcastic comments about the monarch's dog, tearing banknotes bearing the king's image, and sharing a BBC biography. In January 2024, a Thai court sentenced a man to 50 years for sharing satirical social media posts, and a prominent activist received a 29-year sentence after referencing a TV segment. Thailand's government argues that Section 112 protects the dignity of the monarchy, which is revered as the symbolic center of the nation. Critics counter that the law is used to silence dissent, prop up the military-royal alliance, and preserve elites' privileges. Scholar Pavan Chachavalpongpun notes that increased prosecutions reflect a desperate attempt to maintain the royal network, but such misuse ultimately weakens the monarchy. So, why should travelers care? Well, many visitors to Thailand are unaware that casual remarks or gestures can be illegal. The US State Department's Overseas Security Advisory Council warns that foreigners are subject to Section 112 and have been detained for seemingly minor acts. Travel sites advise tourists never to write anything derogatory about the royal family, to stand respectfully during the national anthem, and when videos of the king play at cinemas, and to avoid stepping on banknotes or criticizing royal pets. As the Explore.com article stresses, offenses can include sharing or liking social media posts, wearing clothing considered disrespectful, and even using color combinations associated with the monarchy. Bail is often denied, and trials can be held in secret. Because any Thai citizen can initiate a case, an offhand remark overheard in a bar or on Facebook may lead to arrest. For travelers, this means that basic etiquette, showing deference to images of the king, avoiding political discussions, and being mindful of social media is essential. Thailand's political divisions shape attitudes towards lese-majesté. The country is split between an urban, young, and reformist camp and a rural, older, and monarchist base. The BTI Transformation Index notes that poor farmers in the north and northeast, the stronghold of Thaksin Peo Thai Party, support pro poor policies and often resent Bangkok's elites. Their red shirt movement demands more democracy. Urban middle class residents of Bangkok and royalist strongholds in the south and central plains rally behind the military, monarchy, and big business, forming the yellow shirt movement. This divide is not absolute. Many rural voters respect the king, but it shapes how people view Section 112. Public opinion surveys reflect these differences. A 2021 poll by Superpoll Research Center reported that 97% of respondents supported charges against the Progressive Party leader under Section 112, and nearly 93% believed the law helps maintain peace. These high numbers likely reflect sampling of older or conservative demographics, but they illustrate widespread reverence for the monarchy outside activist circles. In contrast, many young urbanites oppose the law. Since 2020, student led protests have demanded reform or abolition of Section 112. Protesters chant "No absolute monarchy" and call for accountability. The Move Forward Party, which won the popular vote in the 2023 election, campaigned to amend the law, but was blocked from forming a government and later dissolved by a court. During campaign rallies, some voters told reporters that the other side only cared about the monarchy and the rich, reflecting resentment towards the alliance of palace, military, and old money. Regional differences also matter. In the north and northeast, where Thaksin's influence remains strong, many want social programs and are less concerned with strict royal protections. In the southern provinces and parts of the Central Plains, where the population is more conservative and closely tied to the royal network, support for Section 112 remains high. Urban Bangkok is paradoxical. It contains both monarchist middle class communities and the epicenter of student activism. Meanwhile, the border regions and minority communities often remain silent because any discussions of the monarchy can lead to charges. The future of Thailand's monarchy and its lese-majesté law is uncertain. King Maha Vajiralongkorn is less popular than his father, and younger Thais increasingly question the legitimacy of absolute royal immunity. Demographics are important. As a larger share of the population becomes urbanized and connected online, the taboo around discussing the monarchy weakens. However, the military royalist establishment still controls key institutions, including the courts and Senate. The dissolution of the Move Forward Party shows how far elites will go to block reforms. For now, Section 112 remains sacrosanct. Courts prosecute activists, and the mainstream press practices self censorship. There are signs of gradual change. Some academics and moderate politicians propose reducing penalties or narrowing the law's scope. International pressure mounts as human rights organizations highlight long prison sentences. Thailand's tourism sector, a vital source of income, could suffer if travelers perceive the country as hostile to free expression. Yet any reform must balance respect for the monarchy, still revered by many, with democratic freedoms. The acquittal of Thaksin Shinawatra might suggest that courts can act independently, but numerous activists remain jailed. Whether Thailand moves towards a constitutional monarchy with limited lese-majesté provisions or continues its hardline approach will depend on negotiations between a more assertive public and a reluctant establishment. Thailand's lese-majesté law illustrates the tensions between tradition and modernity. From Roman emperors to European monarchies, lese-majesté once served to shield rulers from criticism. Today, most democratic countries have abolished or limited such laws. Thailand, however, retains Section 112 as a powerful tool to protect a revered institution and to maintain elite control. For travelers, the law is a warning. Cultural respect in Thailand is not merely polite, it is legally mandated. For Thais, it is a focal point in a struggle between monarchy and democracy. The acquittal of Thaksin Shinawatra may signal a slight opening, but the path to reform will be long, fraught, and shaped by how the nation reconciles its past with the aspirations of its youth.